All right, hi everybody. This is our take 2 of the new update to the video or to the blog. So awesome time last time. It was fun and a lot of good responses from people. So thanks very much. Definitely keep questions coming. I think we'll just keep doing this. It's worked for us pretty well. So hopefully it's working for you guys too. So all right. Let's start with some updates, just kind of in general. You want to talk a little bit about your software process, because that's been going for a little while now.
Gotcha.
New Agile.
So in the last video blog, we mentioned that we just started using Agile Scrum internally. I have 2 software developers under me right now. We've got one guy working from school too. And so one of the big challenges when we started that out was sort of like, how do we actually manage this? Because before 6 months ago, it was just sort of Joe and I working on software. And so what we've done is we've implemented Agile Scrum, which is like a project management methodology, and it includes everything from like how long and how far in advance do you plan projects, that sort of thing, how you break it down, and also how you keep everyone up to date and how do you manage change as the project progresses. And so what we do is there's a 2-week sprint where at the beginning of the 2 weeks, we break down about 2 weeks worth of work. We have a master, it's called a product backlog, which lists everything we want to do on the project. And we grab what we think is about 2 weeks worth, and then together we break it down into the individual date, like subtasks that are about a day or half a day to complete. And then we assign those to everybody on the project, and we start to sprint. And then every single day we update. We have a little 15-minute meeting where we cover what we've done so far, and what we're working on next, and if there's anything like holding up the progress. And the best part about this is as you complete these tasks that are only a day or a half a day at a time, you have a really good insight into how things are really progressing, as opposed to like I think it's called like cliff edge project managing or something like that, where you don't normally know how a project's doing until it's supposed to be almost done. Whereas this guy, with this system, we have a good idea of how fast work is really getting done, as opposed to how fast we needed to get done.
Yeah, I'm super excited because it's going really well. Everybody that's doing it really likes it. They like the feedback and sort of like accomplishing the goals or whatever. And also, it's getting to the point where I know that if it gets into the sprint, it's probably going to get done. It's like almost certainly going to get done. And so if there's anything really important that needs to be put in there, every 2 weeks you have an opportunity to put that in there, and it's going to get done, which is pretty cool. So that's about the, and then we're using Jira for that, right?
Yeah.
How's that going?
Jira is a pretty cool web-based planning software, and it's a little bit enterprisey, but it did take us almost a week, I'd say. In fact, it took us the whole first sprint to really sort of learn how it works, and so our first sprint we didn't really set up properly, but we're in sprint number 3 right now, and I think it's working extremely well, and everyone is actually, like the most important thing is we actually use it, and we use it properly, and so.
Right, and then there's just a burned down chart. That's pretty cool. Anyway, okay, cool. Really quick assembly update. So we now have a Molex crimping machine, the crimping applicator, automatic wire cutting and stripping, and so we're doing all the wire bundles ourselves, which is both good and bad. It's pretty cool, but obviously it takes a long time. So we're going to be hiring some more assembly people, but it's pretty cool. And then new products. So we're on form factor now for the new product. So all the CAD is done pretty much as of today for all the new products. The form factor for the boards is done. We're just doing final layout for the board. So there's a few things that could still go wrong for sure, but it's looking pretty good. 10 layers is a layer count probably for the new boards. So which is a big jump from where we were before, obviously. So, all right. So let's see. Let's see here. Okay, I'm just going to go through a couple of common email support things. One of the ones that comes up a lot is people don't know that there's 2 different export options. So a lot of times they want to export, say, the results of an SPI analyzer. You want to talk about that?
Oh yeah. A lot of times when you do record data, if you record more than just a little bit, any one of the protocol analyzers we support has their own export options. So this is actually sort of hidden in the software. This is one of the most common emails we get. You can actually export just results from a protocol analyzer separately from the raw captured data. There's a little gear button next to the protocol analyzer in question. If you just click that gear icon, there's a menu option for export, and there's a sub-menu for the export type. And they all support export to text/CSV. Then it'll export whatever display base or radix you're currently using, so decimal or binary. And so that's a great way to actually search stuff right now. Say if you record like a few thousand SPI transactions or something like that, you can actually just search the entire data stream directly like that, and it's all timestamped.
Cool. What about counting transitions?
Oh yes, so this is especially like a common situation in some RF type stuff, or if you need to count clocks for some reason. It's really painful to do by hand. In fact, so there's two ways to count transitions. So if you want to know all the transitions on one channel in a certain time range, the fastest way to do it is go on the blog, sorry, not on the blog, go on the community site, find a forum post labeled transition counting, and download the beta software there. It's a special blend that was just built specifically for this after about the 20th or 30th person asked for it. And then it'll just use place timing markers, and it'll tell you the transitions between all the channels. And then if you just want to use this existing software or any of the mainline betas, the easiest way to do it, it takes about like a little under a minute, especially when you get good at it. So you place the timing markers in the range you want to count. And then you go to export data off of the options menu. And so there's a lot of different export options, and this is the raw data export. So the first thing you want to do is instead of exporting all channels, you want to just select the channels you want to export and then only export the channel that you're counting. And then in the rest of the settings, export to the CSV data format. Make sure that you select one line or one row per transition. I think that's default. And that's pretty much all you need to do. I'd use timestamps. And there's one other option. Make sure you select export just between the timing markers instead of the entire data set. Export that to Excel, and then just scroll to the bottom of the file. So basically there'll be one row for every transition. And so for every so you just scroll down to the bottom of the file, and then however many lines there are in the file, it's the number of transitions there are -1.
Right. I was thinking that the proper way to do that when we get around to that is probably have sort of functionality associated with the timing marker. So there's like the timing markers themselves have like a little icon that shows up when you hover near them or something that lets you do different operations.
Yeah, and ultimately you'll be able to we're going to build this really sweet Python measurement system where you can write your own measurements, and you'll be able to just write a 2-line Python script that just grabs the time location of the two markers and then counts all the transitions in between.
Going back to the Agile methodology though, right now we're doing minimum viable product stuff. So
yeah,
absolute
so in the tree of products, right? There's what we're working on now is core support for either new products. I can't talk about this too much, but and that's split up into several different categories. And then after that, and that's called minimum viable product. And there's 3 tiers of minimum viable product. There's sort of the minimum, and then there's if we had a couple extra weeks, maybe 2 extra sprints, and then a few extra sprints. And it all depends on how timing works out. And then after that, we have these different epics, which are each individual category of work. And so there's an epic for the epics that are sort of have been under development are protocol search, new triggers. Let's see what else is there. Oh, a complete redesign of the user interface, so you can just drag and drop channels and just drag them from tab to tab, that sort of thing. And that one's and all 3 of those are under certain levels of development. But we pulled off all the developers, and we're all on MVP 1 right now.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of hard to tell how long it's going to be till it's done, but you can actually go check the product backlog to go find out.
Cool. Okay, so let's get to, I guess, some questions that people are writing in. Devendra from Facebook says, I get frustrated when a long capture stalls. Is USB 3.0 in the works? Would it still be relatively inexpensive? First of all, is there anything we can do about the long capture stalls right now?
Yeah, so long capture stall is basically referring to, you set the software and you want to capture for an hour or 10 hours, or in some extreme cases longer than that. And so it'll be capturing for a while, and then halfway through your capture, a dialog will pop up saying, I'm sorry, but logic was unable to keep up with the sample rate. And then there's like an option for like, would you like to keep the data that you've captured so far? Probably yes. And then there's a checkbox that says lower sample rate. And this happens when USB bandwidth dries up for a moment. So there's a little buffer on the hardware, and it's basically constantly streaming data over USB, and USB sort of reads it in chunks. And so every time it sends a read request, it reads one chunk of data, and if there's too much of a delay or latency in between those two read requests, the buffer on the device will overflow. If that happens, we immediately terminate the capture because that would create a gap. And so normally this will either happen at the very highest sample rates, just because, but it's usually caused by other traffic on the USB bus. So if you have other stuff like usually flash drives or USB hard drives or webcams use the most bandwidth. If you have logic connected through a USB hub, that can cause dropouts. Not all hubs are created equal. Turns out a lot of them will sort of artificially create this problem on their own. And then there's other stuff you can do too. You can move all other USB devices to one USB host controller. So most desktop PCs have two USB host controllers, about half the ports assigned to each, and each operating system has their own way of viewing which devices are on which hub, on which host controller. If you put Logic or Logic 16 on its own host controller, that like dramatically improves performance. And sometimes the host controllers have different performance. I'm not sure why, but switching to the other host controller will fix that. If you're still having problems, we do have a utility for you that allows you to automatically take multiple captures in sequence and save them individually rather than relying on one really long capture. And so we recommend that to a lot of people, especially if you need to collect a huge amount of actual data. So for instance, if you're looking at a high-speed bus, then that'll actually consume memory on your system extremely quickly. And so the software will run out of memory if you try to do it in one shot, but you can actually automatically take shorter captures. I recommend just writing in about that. There's a posting to it on the forums, but it's kind of buried. So if you just shoot us an email to support@Saleae.com, I can hook you up with that.
Nice. Oh, and then what about the USB 3.0 thing?
Oh yeah. So it probably would be easy. What do you think?
Yeah. So.
And actually, let's scratch the easy part. It's probably doable. What do you think?
Yeah, it's doable, and cross-platform is doable.
Yeah,
and,
I guess all Macs have USB 3.0. Guess somebody should do that, right?
Yeah, somebody should get on that. All right, let's see. Any chance for the same form factor analog scope in the future, even better hybrid device, meaning scope plus logic analyzer? And this is from Mark from Twitter. He says it's worth at least $500 to me. So somebody should get on that too. So my thought on oscilloscopes today, if you're looking for a low-cost oscilloscope, my opinion is go Rigel. $500, $400 to $350 even. It's probably the way to go. Logic analyzer, definitely go with us, not Rigel. Building like a Rigel class or an Agile class 200 megahertz oscilloscope is a little bit more than we're doing right now, but that's definitely something on our radar. Not because we would build a better sort of analog product, but because the user experience on oscilloscopes is terrible. So, and we think that it's much better to do it with the PC, with the mouse, and then potentially on tablets and things. So, anything you want to add to that?
Hybrid device would be pretty interesting.
Oh, with both, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see here. For those of us who don't know C++, how about adding a feature that would allow us to create analyzers by drawing boxes, kind of like like an interactive way of doing it. His example is drawing a little box around something in a MIDI stream that defines middle C, and that's from Dave on our blog. A couple things. First of all, MIDI actually should be out in a week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Dominic's working on that. So we're gonna have MIDI regardless. And then I'm a little bit hesitant to try to make some sort of arbitrarily complex GUI-based protocol analyzer. What we do want to do in the future is do a Python-based type of deal, right?
Yeah, the current analyzer SDK, not only is it C++, but it's also kind of complicated. You end up having to write 4 classes.
Right, and the reason it's complicated is because we want to be able to do it in real time. There's a few things that that the architecture requires, but we could do something much simpler in
Yeah.
Python where we could make it just really easy with a lot of examples and stuff. So I think that's what we're probably going to be doing for that in the short term, or in the medium term, I should say. So then there's the clones question from Max on our blog. So as many of you probably know, you can search the internet for clones, and you can find clones of our product. So there's a handful of things to mention about this, right? Obviously, this was kind of upsetting to us, to say the least, when this first happened. And not so much now. Now it's sort of business as usual, I guess. And it hasn't drastically affected our business. It's hard to say, would it be a lot better? And there's definitely pros and cons to having sort of clones out there. I mean, would we rather not have any clones? Absolutely, right? I think it hurts the brand. A lot of people buy the clones. They don't really know that it's not from us. Our logo's on the stupid thing. And so that's bad. On the other hand, it gets into a lot of people's hands that might otherwise not have it, especially in Asia. Now, what we'd like to do in the future is address that market need directly rather than a whole bunch of people in the middle and making who knows what. So a few more things to mention. Logic, our original product, when I first made that, we didn't put any sort of protections in it. And we knew it was going to be easy to copy, and we kind of thought that would be a good problem to have, sort of naively, thinking like no one would bother to do that, right? But turns out people bothered to do that. So we learned our lesson on Logic, and in Logic 16 we made it a lot harder to clone, much, much harder. Since then, recently somebody has kind of managed to work around that, which is very interesting and definitely an eye-opener for how we do this on the next generation of products. So I guess kind of our strategy right now is if we can build cool new products that people really, really want, and we can protect those for a number of years using increasingly advanced protection schemes, including the software itself, and being able to not hack the software, that's sort of a good strategy going forward. So to make just new, more desirable products so that people ultimately will want to upgrade, even if they have a clone right now. And we're also going to come out with some cheaper options for people that hopefully will remove some of the incentive to go with the clones. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything you want to add to that?
It's definitely an interesting problem. And it's really hard to tell exactly how much it does affect us, but we actually do get customer support emails,
Right.
And people who don't even know they have a clone, who bought a clone recently, and sometimes it's not even apparently obvious in the beginning of the email.
And obviously, I don't know if you've seen any of the clones, but if you have them in person, and we have a whole bunch of them, it's sort of antithetical to what we want our brand experience to be like. So obviously that's bad. A couple more things to say. It's almost exclusively in Asia. We have a lot of non-paying Asian customers. What was that quote about Microsoft?
We were just
having a collection problem in Asia. They have a lot of market share, but a collection problem. And then the only way that these products enter the U.S. is through a lot of these sites like Alibaba, potentially eBay. And the more mainstream the site like eBay, the better they are about taking these things down. But they can definitely get in through the more obscure sites. One last thing to say about it is that so Asia obviously is, or particularly China, is sort of notorious for this sort of thing. And the thing to say about that is that it really hurts Asia's economy and China's economy, or certainly the Chinese entrepreneur much, much more than it hurts us. We have this firewall, the U.S. Customs, where we're mostly protected from clones, and there's sort of a belief in the U.S. that cloning somebody's product and ripping off their software, whatever, is sort of morally now I can't say the word, reprehensible, right? Yeah, wrong. Okay. And but it really hurts Asia much more, because those entrepreneurs over there, like, that is their market. Their entire market is China, and to have their stuff ripped off in a week is horrible for them. And I think that ultimately there'll be more and more pressure on their government, just from the business community over there, to to put a stop to that. So as they become more innovative over there, start their own companies, I think the problem will, I think in the next 10 years it's going to go a lot smaller than it is now, but who knows. So that's all I have for that one. Yeah, that's all I have right now. Do you have any other thoughts? Or whatever? What else is going on in the world? How about the boat? Talk about the boat.
Yeah.
So what's going on with the boat?
So we haven't worked on it in like maybe about a half a week or a week.
Couple of weeks.
So okay, yeah. So the solar panel installation is your department right now.
Yeah. So the solar panel is in the boat, but not on the boat. We have ordered parts from McMaster that should arrive today to try out an assembly method to put the solar panel on the boat. And then on your desk to the right is a whole bunch of batteries.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but so charging the batteries is sort of the last hurdle in terms of electrical engineering. So we have 15 lithium iron phosphate batteries, and we have like a solar charger. It was just a generic peak power point tracking charger.
So the little boards that are on the battery are part of the balancing solution. You want to talk about how that works?
Yeah. So we have 15 of these little boards we built, one for each battery, and basically the idea is you monitor the voltage of every cell independently. So when you're charging, you can detect if one cell is charging faster than the others, and then we have a little MOSFET on there to sort of bleed current around that cell through the MOSFET, so that we can prevent it from overcharging and potentially blowing up. And so we have that all hooked up to a little one master board, which is connected to a PC over USB, and so we have software monitoring all the cell voltages and doing like basic cell bypassing and stuff, and so it sort of works. The last missing piece is writing actually a good charging algorithm. We've done some sort of just like real quick 5-minute charge algorithms to just like shut the pack off after a certain voltage and that sort of thing. And once that's done, we'll be able to really easily recharge this pack off of the solar panels, which I'm really excited about. And then the boat should basically be self-sustaining.
Yep, and we got a Wiimote we're going to try to hook up to control the speed, so you can put in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Last time, we've taken the boat out under electric power just once, and that was controlled from a touchscreen tablet, and that was connected over USB directly to a board that was tied directly to the motor controller. And there's about a 6 horsepower electric motor in there, just creating a huge amount of electromagnetic interference coupled directly over USB right into the side of the tablet. And if you have any experience with touchscreens, the most sensitive part of a phone or a tablet is definitely the touchscreen sensors. Those are the most noise sensitive, and so that's why phones might not work if you plug them into a particularly noisy charger. The display stops functioning properly. It's the same problem while driving the boat, but the problem is the throttle's on the touchscreen, and so every time you try to change the throttle to anything other than off, it would like generate a bunch of random touch events, and it would randomly change the throttle and click other buttons on the display,
Right.
which made maneuvering in the marina pretty difficult. But I don't think we hit anything, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah. So we're also going to be putting the lights in there pretty soon too.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. The individually controlled RGB lights. Got a little FPGA baseboard for that. So. Cool. I think that's all we got for this. How often are we doing this now? 3 weeks? Yeah. So we'll see everybody in 3 weeks. Please send in any questions at all about anything. Definitely happy to any complaints, concerns, suggestions. So, all right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.